Zev, what about your perspective and from an OpenLegacy perspective from a security and compliance side of things?
Sure. So I think there's a little bit of a misconception around compliance as an anchor, as something that stops you or prohibits you from doing things. And while there's an element of truth to that, I think more and more people start to think about compliance, first of all, for financial organizations as a core competency. That's really something that differentiates them from pure technology companies. So it's really important that they know how to do compliance better than anybody else. But also more and more we're seeing compliance as a driver for innovation, as long as you're doing it well. And with compliance, I mean, there's security and compliance, right? So the security is the more cautious, conservative part where I might not want to do, all kinds of different things that other people are doing. We're seeing that change a little bit. People are much more open to new ideas there. And also understanding that new ideas and new technologies are sometimes more secure, not less secure. But on the innovative side, I think we're no longer at the point where there's the scene from Lion King where the scene that the Lion King shows his young son the forest and there's a part of the forest that's dark and you don't go there. And a lot of time that used to be the mainframe. You don't go there. You don't touch that. That's everything there is dangerous and tricky and slow, and you're not going to do that. Compliance really doesn't allow you to do that anymore. When you talk about, customer information regulations, customer information lies within the mainframe, a lot of it, tons of it, sometimes most of it. You're not allowed to not touch it anymore. You're not allowed to disregard it or ignore it in any way anymore. So having a full understanding and the capabilities to reach every piece of data within your organization is now almost expected, not almost, it's expected, and it's legally expected and regulatory expected. So really that drives a lot of innovation because now you have to do things in a way that enable you that flexibility that you can create those connections and integrations into the data and reach wherever within your organization in a hybrid kind of a way. So I think the innovative part of regulation outweighs now the kind of more conservative part of it or the prohibitive part of it.
No, very good points. And Zev, also props for having a Lion King reference in there. That was excellent. Makes a lot of sense. But from that perspective, are you still running into, because I know that I am, are you still running into kind of more basic conversations around that forbidden forest kind of approach where customers are still asking basic cloud security questions almost as a defense to stop themselves from having to begin their cloud journey? And if so, how do you handle those kind of basic questions?
Absolutely. I mean, you still see that. I mean, you still see, people very cautious about opening up their, legacy systems to the cloud, for example. And there's a lot of kind of concerns around that. Usually the approach is more incremental. There are things that are just natively belong to the cloud. Client onboarding, you're not going to have an experience around client onboarding that's not online anymore. But also just providing best practices around the security and standardizing things, because if you have tens of protocols and maybe hundreds of ways of interacting with each component within your environment, that is by its nature not very secure, because the moment you lose some of that skills and know-how, nobody knows how to change anything anymore. And now you can, end up with vulnerabilities that you weren't even aware of. Whereas if you standardize on a few standard ways of accessing the data, of keeping the data, by definition, that becomes more secure, because the way you secure one thing is the way you secure everything else. So that standardization and the automation that comes with it, which is really an important conversation, the automation part, really brings more security, not less.
Yeah, no, absolutely right. And I think that ties back to earlier comments we made around educating customers around some of these basic concepts and continuing to do so. I think generally speaking, we've moved beyond some of those basic concerns around public cloud versus on-premises. However, it's still a ongoing conversation that we need to continue to have with our customers. And from us, as you guys both said, security is, we like to say security is job zero at AWS. It's one of the most important thing we focus on, certainly in all of our services and capabilities, and our partner relationships like with Boomi and OpenLegacy are based on that concept too.
So I think I parse it in from the customer perspective in two categories or two things. First is, all the vendors are now, because AI is a buzzword, but it's a very useful technology. It's not just a buzzword. There's a lot of buzz, but it's very useful. So of course, if I'm a customer, I'm expecting all of my vendors to start introducing AI features. Now, AI features, if done right, are not AI features, are just better experiences on the different products that I'm using. And I know Boomi is doing really exciting things. And the experience just becomes easier and simpler and almost magical in a way. But that's one category. The other category is what I, as a customer, as an enterprise customer, what am I doing with an AI strategy, the things that I'm implementing. And then I think there are two really important components. First of all is access to data. AI needs a lot of data. The more data, the better the AI can be. So access, easy way to get access to the data, to reconfigure that access, to basically have a full landscape of the data within the organization, to make it available and consumable to the AI component. That's one thing. And the other thing is AI can actually do things. So automation becomes critical. So, Ed talked about the citizen developer. What if the citizen developer is actually an AI developer? The citizen is actually an AI trying to do things. That's not far-fetched. That's actually something that can and does happen. Maybe not in enterprises at this point, but will come. So providing level of automations around creating those integration, around monitoring them, around all of those different activities becomes really important, because that's just another, AI have eyes to see the data, and then they have hands and fingers to actually do and make it actionable. These are the kind of things that I think customers are starting to think about on that part of the AI kind of divide on the strategy part of the AI strategy versus just the features that they're going to get, and and the vendors are working very hard to provide them. So that's kind of the way we look at it.